He's practiced in this art of being alone in unknown situations and having to deal with unknown situations.
You know, how am I going to now fly across minefields where there is nowhere to land?
That's the added unknown.
So my thoughts are after that meeting is we're now in a situation of go or no go.
In my mind, I'm going to assume the entire country is a minefield and we only move, take off and land on areas that we know aren't mined, which will be indicated by bitumen roads, well-travelled roads, farmers' fields and things like that. So a very conservative approach.
Yeah.
There might be more hiking than we planned, but I'd rather hike with 2 legs than fly and land and have one.
Yeah.
So,
I'd still say, yeah, I trust you to go and do it safely. But yeah, trust you to come back.
I don't think we have time to wait.
I'm not waiting for any more meetings.
Yeah, I feel like another meeting is going to be hard. Like we don't have time. I feel like we need to just get started.
Oh, we're beyond that.
Yeah.
I'm going crazy. I mean, this has been months in the planning, a lot of research, a lot of planning, a lot of coordination with a lot of government bodies and officials and money and expenditure to bring this all together. And I'm like, okay, we need to go flying. And so we headed straight for Duroc to start the expedition the next day. We're up at 3 a.m. and we get to the Tigris River at 5 a.m. First light. The start point that I'd chosen was the confluence of 2 rivers, and it marks the border of Turkey, Syria and Iraq, and specifically Kurdish Iraq. Now, I now have 250 kilometres through the Zagros Mountains to get to the Iranian border. And this is a highly contested border, and we're about to find out just how highly contested it is. Baked beans. Powered by baked beans. And I open my can of baked beans, and the first Peshmerga turn up and we're detained. And this is not going the way I'd planned. As soon as the cameras were out, we were picked up by the border guards. They were quite serious, fully armed, and they escorted us back to the battalion headquarters. We were threatened that we would lose all our imagery. So Heidi said we need to get out of there, so I'm hiking as quickly as I can to clear their area of responsibility. But we do need to be careful because it won't be the last checkpoint we have to face. So first takeoff is up on top of this ridge here, and should be about 11 o'clock by the time we get there. I made a friend here. It's a female, she's beautiful, called her Peshi, short for Peshmerga, which is where we found her at the Peshmerga camp. Lovely morning though, thus far.
Comms check. Can you read me from this distance?
Got you loud and clear, mate. You can see here how they waterproof some of their houses. They're just tarpaulins with bags of dirt and rocks in them. And try and keep them waterproof. Pretty basic, which makes them even more impressive that they're so happy when they have so little. It's so sad to see the people living this way, and they're made out of mud brick houses with reeds straight out of the creek here. Yeah, so I mean, I think one of these carbon fibre walking sticks is probably worth more than their entire houses. Super sad to see, totally unnecessary. It's a failure of government that does it, not the failure of the people. Anyway, enough politics. On with the hiking. We got away a bit late, which means now I'm pushing a hard timeline to try and get to the top before we get to the peak thermal period of the day.
Probably at the top of this hill, we're coming to his first intended takeoff point. So fingers crossed we haven't lost him already. It looks like another guard point.
Now this is going to go one of 2 ways in my experience. Either going to use my Australian charm and convince him I'm not a threat, or he's going to get concerned. We haven't told the commander all the details of what we're doing, so he just thinks that we're making a documentary about hiking in the Zagros Mountains. But the little knoll behind me here, I think if you guys just sit on top like you're having a picnic, and I'll go over the other side and set up, you won't even see me until I'm airborne, and then I'll let you guys get yourselves out of trouble.
This is looking pretty safe along here in terms of if you have to pike out, like in terms of mine risk. I'm just feeling like this is pretty safe along this road here. It looks like there's a couple of little farms and whatnot.
If I don't get any lift after takeoff, I've got lots of roads down there. The first minefield that we come to is
It's
just
sort of over past that.
yeah, it's probably that second peak there.
Yeah.
Ben, Serge, radio check.
Yeah, good check.
Very loud and clear. Here's the funny thing. I had no GPS from the border to here. We might be in a GPS jammed environment for security reasons. Because my watch never gave me a GPS the whole way up. You know, we dress for the air in paragliding, so it's heavy. I'm expecting a high cloud base today, over 3,000 metres, which means it'll be below zero. So I have to dress for being at 0 degrees. I'm wearing full thermals and hoodie and gloves, etc. So I'm super hot, the thermals are starting, and actually it's looking about as good as I could expect for the first takeoff.
Check. Good check.
I have to go internal in my mind, so it's very much inwards, checklist, and then everything else is turned off except the sensors. It's no longer about making a documentary. It's now about a safe takeoff.